If the other board members could at least just raise their hands. We have Paige, Lynn, and Chris here as well today, so it's nice to have some board members. A couple things just before I introduce Jeff. If you aren't a member of City Club and would like to be, we have our membership forms on the table. Please consider that. And all the money goes to help us put on programs, reserve this room and other stuff just to keep the club running. During the presentation, if you think of a question and you don't want to forget it, write it down on this piece of paper, and then we can come back. We're going to probably do informal questions today. So at the end, when Jeff opens it up for questions, just raise your hand and he can call on you. If you aren't on our email list and would like to be to get the announcements of the meetings, please fill out this form and we'll make sure you get those announcements coming forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jeff Nelson. He is the general manager for a little bit longer for Springfield Utility Board, which is your customer-owned utility here in Springfield for water, drinking water and electricity. Has been for over 75 years. Jeff has been with them since 1996. Is that correct? So almost 30 years. Long time, and he started as the general manager in 2012, guiding the Springfield Utility Board throughout that time, and now into their strategic planning, which he's going to probably touch on today. He's also going to talk just holistically about what Springfield Utility Board does for the community, and then kind of again that future look. Also with him today is Meredith Clark. She is their community relations manager and has been for quite some time, and I get to work with her and always enjoy interacting with Meredith as well. So with my job at the city of Springfield. So without further ado, I'll invite Jeff to come up.
Thank you, Laura Lynn. So again, yes, thank you. I'm Jeff Nelson, General Manager of Springfield Utility Board. There's a few folks I want to recognize. We have Board Member John DeWinter in the room and Board Member Bruce Willis. And then we have, I'm sorry, David Willis. Why do I do it all the time now? We don't know what it is. You know what? I'll get to that in a moment. We have Board Member Bruce Weber in the audience, and then we have the Director of the Electric Division, Sanjeev King. Let's just jump right to what Bruce Weber brought up, and that's one of the things. One of the things that I've reviewed as part of this presentation is the presentation that I gave in 2022. In that presentation to the City Club, I highlighted the board members of the utility, and you'll notice that Bruce is not there. I've had there are 3 board members that have turned over since that time. There have been quite a few different board members at the utility board since I started in 2012. And I just want to recognize all of them. And I apologize, Bruce. Sometimes they do get their names mixed up, especially when there's, I get nervous. I get nervous sometimes. The other thing I wanted to highlight, just to kind of maybe give you some context in how I approach planning and working with the board. The focus of today is on SUB's strategic plan. It's a 5-year plan. It's got some focused goals, objectives. But we've been doing planning for a long time, and I'll get into a little bit of that too. But just from my personal perspective, I was born at Sacred Heart Medical Center. My daughter was born at Sacred Heart. My son was born at McKinsey, the McKinsey Willamette, and I just kind of give you that context in terms of how I've seen what I've seen in the past and where I've seen changes, and essentially where we're heading in the future. Because, well, I do know some of my experiences. I'm actually learning a lot more from my kids. They're telling me this is where things are headed, and if you want to know more about that, I would ask you to talk to Reed, who's in that generation, and to give you more like, this is where things are headed, people, and be ready. So it's really great to have that opportunity to have folks like Reed here who can listen to what I'm saying and go, no, that's not right. And then share your perspective of what you're seeing in the world and where we're headed. Um. So the team did a great job putting this presentation together. And I want to recognize that. If there are any mistakes, those are solely mine. Um, So let's talk about the plan. So we are celebrating 75 years of service. Sub was started kind of as an idea in the 1940s. We had multiple iterations with the public engaging in the creation of a Springfield owned, customer owned utility board. And probably meeting in groups like yours right here, where you're talking about what do you want and what do you want to see for the future of Springfield. So through that process, eventually the voters did create Sub, and then through time, we were incorporated into the city's charter. So when you think about a charter, that's like a local constitution assigning powers to certain entities. So Sub role in the charter is authorized to provide electric, water, gas, and telecommunication services. And that's kind of the foundation of our mission. And through that did help establish, of course, guide the underlying framework for our strategic plan. So the population served just under 62,000, 3 billion gallons of water annually. I'll just say that's a lot. Amount of power that is free of greenhouse gases. What does that mean? So a lot of times when we hear about strategy and we hear about what other utilities are doing, they're trying to solve a completely set of different problems or challenges or opportunities. And one of the things that we see as a theme, both nationally and internationally, is how is the community addressing climate change, or what is the environmental friendliness of their power supply in terms of what the utility is buying for service to the community. And Sub for decades has been buying power from the Bonneville Power Administration, primarily hydroelectric power based, some nuclear, with a feathering of some wind and other renewables. So our foundation of how we've been approaching our power supply in that environmentally responsible way, it's just been baked in the cake. Other communities and other areas around the country or the world, they're starting at a very low level of renewable generation. So those are the challenges that they're facing, and then they're coming up with their plans to address that challenge. Oh, wait. We go back. How do I do that, Dave? That one? Good, I can follow instructions. So let's talk about the service territory. So this is a representation of part of our current boundaries within the city limits, and then self-service territory within and without the city limits. But I just want to remind folks that when Sub was formed, the city limits were much, much smaller than they were today. And then through time, Weyerhaeuser at the time wanted to build a facility. And at the time that they wanted to do that, UWEB had infrastructure to serve that facility. So they began serving the Weyerhaeuser facility, and now it's International Paper. But through time, even though the city limits expanded and then the urban boundary changed, UWEB still serves that area and load resource from UWEB's perspective. So there's history there. Folks have more questions about that. Happy to answer those, but I just want to touch on that real quick. So what's next for Springfield? So we did the strategic plan involved strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and a landscape analysis. Some of that it was a deeper dive, internally, what folks saw as the challenges. And looking also externally in terms of what's happening in the world. I would like to highlight some things, and mostly to let you all know that we are trying to pay attention to what the experts are saying with what's happening around us. And I'll start with saying that, for example, there was a presenter, let me get my notes real quick. Presenter from the Council on Foreign Relations, the senior fellow, Rebecca Patterson, gave a speech at the American Public Power Association conference in June of this year. She highlighted 4 things that are things to consider for the kind of the larger global environment that we're going to be experiencing over the next number of years. So trade uncertainty with the trade policies, and that's impacting also capital expansion plans for just a general business environment. Taxes, so the tax structure program, how that's laid out, as well as the trajectory, because there's a link there between the tax structure and then the spending and then the debt. And the debt is exploding at the federal level, as well as she highlighted that the US dollar as a form of reserve currency around the world, while it's been had a healthy run and been very much a part of global trade, that is on the decline. It's not going to go away anytime soon, but other international players are adjusting how they're conducting trade, and part of that strategy is moving away or lessening their reliance on the US dollar. Regulatory changes, so one of the things that was highlighted was they did see, at least at the federal level, Rebecca did, that the trends, while volatile, at least in the next number of years, seems to be improving. So regulatory environment lessening for business, creating less friction for businesses to operate. And so from her perspective, from just an economic perspective, that was a positive sign. The one of the other challenges, though, that was highlighted, the 4th one, was regarding immigration. So she showed a graph that showed, for all the folks that are coming into the workforce, how many of those folks are native born and how many of those were born outside the United States. And the number of folks coming into the workforce in the United States that were born outside the United States has exploded over the last decades. Our birth rate in the United States and other developed countries is low. And based on that, the population trends, I shared this with the board in 2020. One moment. I gave them a memo and talked about, this was a study by the University of Washington, some highlights and other resources that I pulled from, but by 2100, there's going to be huge shifts in global age structure, with an estimated 2.37 billion individuals over 65 years globally in the year 2100. And from their opinion was that it underscored the need for a liberal immigration policy in countries with significantly declining working age populations. So that's the Western world right now. So if things don't change, their analysis was India, South America, Africa, those are going to be the booming emerging countries because they have the demographics and the potential to be the next opportunity for the future. So I'll stop there. I could go on about that whole global perspective. I just wanted to let you know that we're paying attention because all this, what's happening on the global world, and the global landscape, and the national level, that does impact us locally. All right, so strategic goals. We have goals on engaging with our customers, on investing in our people, the coworkers. We have focusing on reliable and cost-effective energy and water, sound fiscal responsibility, and also focusing on technology and being intentional about how we're implementing technology for how to be more efficient and provide better service to our customers. So I just want to pause there real quick, because while this does talk about customers, we also have other stakeholders that are considered in the plan, and that includes developers. So just to emphasize, SUB gets its funding from rate revenue and rate revenue. We don't get property tax revenue, there's no payroll tax, there's no income tax. It's either, the money that SUB receives is either coming from ratepayers, or with new development pays for the costs to extend infrastructure for that development. So those are the two buckets that we have. We don't have the flexibility of some other entities that have other buckets to draw on. Okay, so we do want to enhance customer and community engagement. Opportunities to present to you, opportunities to kind of hear from you and want to adapt how we're doing to provide the best service that we can to you. Investing in people, again, we want to provide a culture that continues safety and professional growth. Well, what does professional growth mean? So we've had implemented, and now we're expanding on career development opportunities in terms of letting folks know this is the progress that you need to do, or the steps you need to take if you're looking at other opportunities within SUB. And it's just trying to, even though we're a smaller organization and there are some limitations with growth opportunities in smaller organizations, we are trying to communicate and be transparent about what they can do to be best positions if they want to apply for another position at SUB. Improve performance with technology. Again, that is an emphasis. We have a technology roadmap. We're implementing a plan to collectively get a reset on understanding all the different systems in the whole organization. So that's one of the highlights there that's happening in the near term as a way of as an example of that what we're doing to achieve that goal, and then maintain financial soundness. We do need to make sure and acknowledge that there's significant pressure on our capital expenditures. We just need to do a lot of things, and so how are we stepping through that intentionally and achieving all the objectives that we want to achieve in a way that is still financially sustainable, and then providing reliable energy and clean water. That's a goal, and it's been our goal for a long time. Just wanted to highlight some recognition we received with reliable public power provider from the American Public Power Association, outstanding performer from the Oregon Health Authority, and we've also gotten additional safety and reliability recognition from APPA through different other programs. So let's stop there. Some people might be saying, well, Jeff, you said that in the charter, SUB has the authority to provide gas and telecommunications. Why is that not on the list? So we've continued to look at those opportunities through time, and I'll just say that we concluded that based on the market environment and doing that landscape analysis, that investing in those types of infrastructure beyond what we already do, because we do some things, and we can talk about that down the road. Telecom and gas just weren't in the mix to be a focus for the future at this point in time. I think it's important that SUB wants to be good, excellent, we don't want to be just good, we want to be excellent, and the best way to be excellent is to focus on some things rather than be good at a lot of things, so we're stepping through that as well. McKinsey water supply project. So this is a project, there'll be a presentation later this year about this project from Greg Miller from our water division. And this has been under development for decades. When we talk about the planning and the water rights and other elements that go into this type of infrastructure, it takes almost a generation of general managers to kind of see things through fruition. So this is gonna be a project that's gonna come online, now planned for 2028. And so we're nearing that finish line of getting that new infrastructure built. Another project is the Glenwood substation, so this up the hill. Another opportunity, we looked at this starting, I think, in 2006. So you might remember when McKinsey Willamette was looking at potentially going over to Glenwood. We said, yeah, we can do it. We're happy to serve you. Looks like you're gonna need the substation. Just give us 5 years. And they said, well, I don't think that was necessarily the only reason why they looked away from Glenwood, but I think that was a factor. So Sub said, yeah, we can't tell people that anymore. So we need to start putting in infrastructure to accommodate the vision that the city has with regard to the development of Glenwood. And remember when I said there are 2 buckets of money that that Sub gets revenue from, ratepayers and developers. This particular project is paid by ratepayers, investing in an investment by ratepayers. It is for the future. But it also is providing reliability for our current ratepayers and enhanced power quality for our current ratepayers. So I just want to highlight that is where the funding is coming from right now. If you have more questions about the project, Sanjeev is here. For the 2024 ice storm, that was the largest restoration effort in Sub 75-year history. I've been and seen through a lot, the 96 floods and some other things, definitely some adverse weather events that have impacted our system. That was a big one. When we had our after action reports, well, we did one internally and then we hired a consultant to help us also look at what could we do better, because we wanted to be better for the future and better prepared. With our role, because our role is utility restoration in that type of event. It's not humanitarian assistance. It is focused just on restoration. So we dug deep and appreciate all of the contributions from customers, from stakeholders, from our coworkers on, hey, this went well, but yeah, this really needs some work. So I also want to recognize, this is a great opportunity to highlight Team Springfield. This is one of the great things about Springfield, in my view. Where we have Team Springfield, which is Springfield Utility Board, the City of Springfield, Springfield Public Schools, and Willamette Parks and Recreation Districts. So we meet on a regular basis talking about issues that we independently have. We have our own missions, don't always agree, but we're talking and we're communicating. We're not operating in a silo, trying to understand what each other's challenges are, share ours so that everyone's better informed. Representative Lively talked earlier, I overheard about how the state legislature operates, and I'm happy to say that we are acting in a better fashion. Is that fair?
I'm glad you heard that.
Okay, all right, just want to reassure you.
It's easier to 90. Yeah.
So if you would like to hear a little bit more about Team Springfield, I'd encourage you to go to KLCC's website. Michael Dunn had an interview with the four of us, and that happened, that was aired on Monday, and it's now a link. That you can go to and just listen to that radio interview. That picture right there is, our vehicles and the fleets from outside of the area that came to help with the restoration. That's at the Bob Kiefer Center. So the event happened on Saturday. We were there on Thursday following the event. And we were calling in aid from the outside, but we were able to connect with our team Springfield folks saying, we need help. What can we, this is what we need specifically. And they just stepped up and said, this is what we can give you. And the Lamb Lane gave us a fabulous location to be able to deploy, feed, our support. So definitely grateful for that community support. So important. So one of the areas that we needed to improve was communication. So we have new interactive tools to communicate with our customers about what's happening on the electric side, what's happening on the water side. So we just want to highlight those and let you know we heard you, and we're implementing those steps. I do want to say I'm really proud. One of the things I'm really proud about Sub is that we are doers. I mean, I got hired on in 1996. I just got swept up into this culture of doers. We are do. And we're not do, but we're do. And so they just jumped on these opportunities to, make these improvements. I say that because, we have the opportunity to engage with lots of different stakeholders, and I think that the leadership is maybe a function of, I maybe characterize it three things. You gotta be able to do things. You gotta be able to talk about what you're doing, which we're trying to do better now. We're trying to tell you, this is what we're doing. And you also have to listen. Is what we're doing and what we're telling you what you're doing really adding value to you? And so we need to continue that framework, do, talk, and listen. Some organizations are great at one and not so much at the other, but we are trying to be intentional to be providing you all what you expect and deserve. So Sub is people and the people we serve, and that is the bottom line. We have a lot of folks that are longtime employees of Sub. They just hug that mission, and are so grateful for the opportunity to serve the customers, you all. And how am I doing on time? I'm okay. Great. Huh. Fantastic. What I'm gonna do actually though is I'll take a pause from my talking. And like I said, we're doers, we're talking, but I want to listen. So I do want to listen to what you all have, and happy to entertain some questions or things you want to know more about.
So talk about the water plant. Is that a replacement or an addition to? Most of the water comes from wells now, right? And the Willamette filtration plant, do we need that extra plant for supply, or is that just belts and suspenders?
I love that question. Thank you, Senator Byer. Actually, the marketing team gave me, I'm learning about all these marketing terms like challenging questions or speakers bureaus. Right, so for all of you who are in the know, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know, but I'm learning. So that is a challenging question. So I appreciate you asking that challenging question. So one of the I think misunderstandings, or what people don't know, is that actually Sub has two treatment facilities, one on the Willamette and one near the McKenzie. And it's been our long-term strategy to continue to develop those resources. So part of that includes both groundwater with wells. So we have wells at the Willamette, and we have wells at the Thurston, McKenzie's side. And then we also have a surface water intake at the Willamette. So with the treatment facility there, treats both surface water and groundwater. And we're looking at the future in terms of water rights and water right management for the Willamette. And how we're going to implement those in the future. But right now, we're focused on what I'll call the expansion of the McKinsey source. So right now we have primarily the wells, but now we're going to be leveraging the surface water rights that Sub has for the community and expanding on that. So when we talk about the McKinsey River Water Supply Project expansion, it's in that area of that vicinity. While it looks like it might be further away from our current facility, it is. We just need a bigger footprint out of the floodplain for that type of treatment facility. So is it belts and suspenders? No. It serves a few different things. One is it provides water for what the community needs now, as well as being ready for whatever happens in the future. And it also provides resiliency because having multiple water sources allows for the situations that might be unfortunate where one water source just can't work and we can rely on another one to provide that resiliency backup to continue to provide water in that extreme event. I'll give you an example. This is on the electric side. Sub experienced a fire in his control house at the Springfield substation, not too far away from here. And we had to take that substation completely offline. We were able to still serve our customers. The customers may have been temporarily impacted, but we didn't go telling people that we didn't necessarily know. This is going to be down for a year. Please be patient with us. That's not what we expect our customers to expect. We expect them to say nothing because they are still getting the same reliable power that they've always been getting. So the fact that our substation, a critical piece of our infrastructure, was offline for a year, and we were still able to provide water or electric service to our customers, they didn't know the difference. I think that's part of that perspective, and so that's what happened on the electric side. Something similar could happen on the water side. And when I talk about water supply, there's some other challenges like with wells and the PFAS, the forever chemicals. Those are compounding the challenges for groundwater supply. There's some other things being discussed at the 42nd Street interchange with ODOT and 126. If that happens in the future, then that will impact our wells at what we call our warehouse for well location. So the facilities that we have, we're trying to balance all these potential impacts, whether it's water quality standards that apply to groundwater, or hey, this well site's gonna be gone because ODOT has plans. We need to be ready for that future, and so that's part of why this plant is being built. Do you want to give a shout out to Representative Lively? He was part of the review committee on a loan, forgivable loan, for engineering design for PFAS treatment for our I-5, well, it's not Rainbow's I-5 rails, but our sports wave. And so it is related to PFAS. And so we just are grateful for Representative Lively's support on helping us find solutions to keep our system cost effective and reliable. So thank you.
Wasn't my money.
Yes.
Jeff, a bit of a nerdy question. As a general rule, Sub becomes the provider of choice when a property annexes into the city. However, in an area south and east of the city, there's been a long conflict with a state allocation of a utility provider, which would mean you would not become the provider of choice in that area. Is there anything happening to change that, to permit you to take on new customers?
There's been a lot. So where do I start? I'll just start by saying that the framework for utility service territory was baked into the Oregon revised statutes, and part of that responsibility fell under territorial allocations that were approved by the Public Utility Commission. And because when the legislature at the time adopted that particular language, they said, this is an issue of statewide concern. Issue of statewide concern trumps everything. It's like ODOT. You're gonna get out of the way, okay? Issue of statewide concern. They don't care about home rule. They don't care about what may be best for a city or community. It's just don't care. This is an issue of statewide concern. And part of the issue is, at the time, they were wanting to get rid of duplicate facilities. So when we were formed, you remember I mentioned back in the 40s, we ended up having multiple lines. One side of the street was served by Mountain States Power, and the other side was served by Springfield Utility Board. Part of the reason why the legislature took on that territorial allocation question was because of all this duplication and mess that was happening. And so they, in the effort to try to organize some things, they actually though overcorrected in my view. And it would be great if they could look at that again. We've explored legislative kind of fixes with the statutes. But we kind of have to approach that with clear eyes, because we have the Oregon Municipal Electric Utility Association, which Sub is a part of. That includes communities like as small as Drain, Oregon, Canby, Cascade Locks. So that's one group. And then you have the Oregon Public Utility Districts Association, OPUDA, and then you have ORECA. Well, if you want to make a change like what we would contemplate as being the best for Springfield, you'd have to overcome or convince those other entities which have different interests to agree. So that one is a challenge. But we have been trying to engage with utilities to agreeably exchange territory or acquire their territory. So EWEB is a great example. Right here, this place was served by EWEB. And then this area agreed or voted to become part of Springfield. And as part of that process, we reached out to EWEB and said, hey, EWEB, great job, but we're going to take over and let's talk about acquiring your water system and your electric infrastructure. And we went through that and we acquired it from them. They came at a mutual win-win situation. And now we electrically serve and provide water to Glenwood. Let's give a carve out and a shout out to Glenwood Water District, who's in the county. They provide technically water service to their customers. They acquire water from Sub, but Glenwood Water District, long history there, amazing story. We've also acquired service territory from EWEB in the east part of the system and north part of the system. And we're even talking with EWEB now about other parts of the area outside the city limits, primarily inside the urban growth boundary, well to the east of Springfield, but appreciate their working with us on tackling that issue. We just haven't been able to crack the nut with our other neighboring very good utility. We just can't have a meeting of the minds so far. Yes.
On the electricity side, there's been lots of growth. Not just customers, but also more basin air conditioning, things like that. There's conservation. How has that looked for the last decade or two as far as your overall, the net growth rate when you take out conservation?
Yes. So I want to highlight on one of those things, Nolan, that we are in the business of providing or wanting to or encouraging our customers to use less of our product, which is different than maybe the private sector. But it is part of the business model that we have. Is we do have a conservation program to encourage people to, invest in weatherization or other systems to be more energy efficient. They find themselves in a more comfortable home in many cases, and as well as in a more efficient, home. So, that is the focus that we do try to provide, is affordability to our customers. And also, you know, along with that is opportunities for them to lower their bills through our conservation programs. When we talk about business cycles, and maybe economic growth, spurts, we've seen that with, through time, more recently with, for example, the Marcola Meadows development and very large, development still, you know, wrapping up. That was a big surge in residential, connections. We have, we're working with Roseboro on their expansion. So Roseboro, shout out to them. They doubled down on Springfield and said, this is an awesome place to be, and it is. And if you're a business, it is. They're gonna, increase their load by quite a bit. I would highlight that, and we've had some great employers come in. Globe Metallurgical was a prior large customer of subs. Sierra Pine, great company, another, sub customer. Sony's this manufacturing chose Springfield, awesome. They're no longer here. That wasn't necessarily any fault of Springfield or sub. That was just a part of their whole global corporate decision making about what facilities to invest in, what facilities to shut down. So we are ready for those folks to come back and other opportunities to come forward. I don't have the numbers. If you took away, that's a good stuff for general manager. If you took away conservation, what would our load growth be? I'll have to come back to you on that one.
Well, the other side is looking forward. You're projecting growth. Do you have any concerns about having, enough electricity to satisfy, the growth?
All right, so two things, maybe two things. When we buy power, it's not just the power, it is also the transmission. So we have, we're a customer of the Bonneville Power side of things, and we're also a customer of Bonneville Transmission. So from Bonneville's Power's perspective, I don't see a challenge getting power. It's either Bonneville Tier 1 at the lowest cost rate or some other additional market power. I think there's always gonna be a power solution. It just is a function of how much you're gonna pay for that power, but that's one thing. The other piece is transmission. So when, for example, I mentioned the Roseboro expansion, we had to connect with Bonneville and say, Bonneville Transmission, do you have enough? We have a grid transmission to deliver power to this location. And they said we do, so problem solved and we moved on. But it is those things where we're seeing transmission nationally be a constraint for these larger, particularly say a server farm. They're just having to walk away from communities because they don't have bulk transmission access.
So Jeff, you mentioned the data farms.
Yeah.
The biggest thought now in the industry.
Yeah.
How would you respond if someone said, let's look around and we want to put one here?
Yeah. So, they have contacted me, probably as far back as 15 years ago. There was a big surge. I think a lot of folks looked at the Pacific Northwest because of our rate competitiveness. Not just in Springfield, but, there were a lot of folks that landed in areas of the Northwest that are served by consumer-owned power companies that have their own hydroelectric generation, and so their pricing structure is different. And anyway, but what I told them at the time, and I think it's still true, is look, your load, great, fantastic, but that will create a situation where we're gonna eat up all of our tier 1 preference power from Bonneville. We're gonna have to go on the market, and the market's higher. So in order for meeting to talk to my board and the customers and say, this is a great thing for Springfield. I need to know a little bit more. How many jobs are coming to Springfield and will stay in Springfield? And really, it's a function of, in terms of, I think, how the board would approach an opportunity would be, what is the net benefit? Is it just a large power user, one person kind of showing up every day and turning on the light? Or are they generating 1,000 jobs? So it is a function of what is that overall benefit? So that was the response at the time, maybe in a more polite way, but that was the response at the time. It would be similar today.
I should know the answers, but I don't. So under the obligation to serve, if they say, okay, we'll come,
Yeah.
can you say no?
Well, let me see. We can say, well, these are the terms and conditions that we will serve you.
Yes.
And if they say we don't like your terms and conditions, we will say, okay, well, thank you very much. We're bound and we have conversations with the board about policy and, of the balance of interests. With that balance of interest, ultimately we have terms and conditions, and some people love them and some people say, well, thank you, but these folks are over here able to sweeten the pot a little bit more, so they're going here. That answer your question?
It does. It's
Yeah,
the
okay.
biggest question going on nationally now.
Uh-huh,
Lots of states are changing the rules to deal with that large load.
Yeah.
And commitment in, it's almost a Sony project. They Sony build something for you, you agree to all this, what happens when you leave?
mhm. Yeah.
See a lot of solar panels on houses around Springfield now and
Uh-huh.
they all over the place.
Yeah.
What's your policy toward those, and do you buy the power from them? And how does that work? Is that part of your conservation plan to get more solar panels?
Not necessarily part of the conservation plan, but we want to be agnostic about customer choice. That's how we've approached things in terms of because what we found is when we say, well, this is the outcome we want, and we're gonna fight everybody in the way. What ends up happening is the loser is the utility. And I've seen examples, I can give you examples about how utilities have said, this is what's gonna happen. And it's gonna happen come hell or high water, and then they go underwater. And so in terms of solar power, if somebody said, well, I'd like to install solar power, the current board policy is go for it. And what we'll do is we'll install a meter on your house or your building that will look at a measure of power going in and then power coming out. And we will credit the power that's coming to our system based on our avoided costs of what we'd otherwise pay Bonneville Power Administration. And so the legislature helped kind of establish a framework with a renewable portfolio standard, and part of that RPS standard required that utilities do offer a net metering opportunity. And that is up to 25 kilowatts right now. And the subs policy allows up to just under 200. Once you go to 200, you kind of trip over into a bunch of Bonneville requirements, and it's problematic. But so subs policy right now is above what the minimum in law is. I'm not saying that every utility should do it, because every utility has their own set of circumstances. If Drain were to do that, Drain is maybe 5 average megawatts, sub is more like 100 average megawatts, and Portland's more like 3,000 average megawatts, 2,000 to 3,000. So everything is got to be considered in terms of what an individual service territory is dealing with. But the sub board said, and then part of the RPS said, you're required to do it up to 25 kW, up to the amount of the load that is being served. So we had some customers come and say, yeah, but we want to install more than what we're using. And the sub board said, okay. And again, it's another example. We're trying to be responsive to the customers and kind of get out of the way of their decision making. Oh, I'm gonna go with you first.
You mentioned that you have some updated, ways to communicate with customers. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah, I showed some pictures, but, that's only 1,000 words, I can go on. I'll give you 200 more. One of the things that we've done is we have an outage, reporting map. That shows by neighborhood what's happening on the electric side, and then on, mapping on the water side. We can show, more definitively what people are experiencing, a boil water notice. Or, even on the water side, I want to highlight there that the work that we do and the impact of the public is a little different oftentimes than the electric side. On the water side, we are in the street. So we're impacting traffic patterns and, people. So we want to communicate more about what's going on and what the status of the project is, and this isn't done, this is just temporary work, we're gonna come back later and do a better job, because we do get feedback that, hey, this temporary patch, well, they don't know it's temporary patch, they just leave it there, you left, and they see this is not good work, but it's only part of the construction process, so trying to communicate more about this is the phase, we'll be back, it's gonna look better than it looks right now, that kind of thing. We've also enhanced our text communications with customers, so from a technology perspective, we've been able to communicate more and reach more folks, even for land outages on the electric side, water side, emergency, issues that pop up. So we're using text as the technology. We will say, why text? Why not something else? We have explored and talked to industry, and that is the current platform to communicate with customers, is pushing messages through text. Facebook has its own demographic. Twitter has its own demographic. Every social media platform has its own kind of demographic of who you're trying to reach. But text is tried and true so far, the best way to meet and reach out to customers. Yes.
As the temperature rises and the weather changes, one of the things we know across the state, some utilities are more at risk of these spikes and having brownouts. So what's the position, and I know there's no guarantee, what's the position in Springfield from the standpoint? We have more 90-degree temperatures, we're having 100 degrees, if people turn on their air conditioners and fans all at the same time. What is that risk, or is there any risk if we would have a brownout?
Yeah, so that is a question that I can only give you a partial answer to, and I'm probably gonna put Mr. King on the spot next. We will talk to Mr. King. So we talk about brownouts. You can look at it from a like 90,000 foot level, and let's say, okay, we're gonna start with the electric grid. So the wholesale power grid that I mentioned earlier, you have vulnerable power administration, you have other wholesale bulk transmission providers that are trying to provide power to load. And what can happen is there can be constraints for delivering power to certain areas. And what you're referring to is these cycles where you can have extreme weather conditions that drive up loads in particular areas. And if they're all rising at once, then it could be a struggle to balance the transmission system with power resources. And then once you get that in balance, because on the transmission side of things, it just kind of operates in this very thin margin of frequency. And if it gets bouncing out of that, then it starts to get really volatile. And eventually it will start to either drop load or drop resources to balance that frequency out to make it stable. So what grid operators need to do is they're trying to manage that in real time and balance resources to keep that power and load balance on the transmission grid stable. Hydroelectric power with storage, fantastic. You can just go with the flow. Solar without storage, that's a problem. Because what ends up happening is you have these cycles where loads will go down real fast because solar's on, and then when solar's off, loads will go up real fast. So solar, just from that perspective, while it might be a very environmentally friendly source from one perspective, it by itself is creating some challenges and needs some solutions. So you can do with batteries, or you can have other resources that are more flexible to respond to these solar output trends. So on the local level, let's talk about the local level. What systems are in place for critical infrastructure? If something gets overloaded and a substation goes down, what's sub's ability to shift power around? So Sanjeev and the team, they did a great job. We have substations, and then those have transformers, and then there's feeders that come out of that substation. So that those feeders are at the utility system voltage. It's not the voltage that serves your home or business, it's still higher voltage. So we have feeders and we have different substations, and we are now designed where those systems are in place where if we lose a feeder from the substation, that this other feeder can serve that neighborhood. So that's one way we can try to respond. The other piece is, so that's another reason why Glenwood substation is important. It gives us that flexibility. If we do have an extreme event that impacts some of our facilities, we've got other facilities to rely on. The other piece that I'll largely lean on Sanjeev for would be our engineering standards. How do we design our system, build our system? When we have to replace something, what's our standard design to? And the team's done a great job of appropriately kind of over-engineering our system. They're always looking at standards to see if we need to harden things even more. But they do a great job of appropriately having our system be very robust. The challenge, I just want to pivot a little bit. The challenge if you over-engineer, in some cases, for example, there are trade-offs. So if you have a larger transformer than you need to serve a customer, you end up with a lot of losses. So it's just wasted energy, but it's a function of how that transformer is operating. So you need to always look at right sizing the transformer to the load to optimize, that balance of losses and efficiency and cost effectiveness. As an example, we'll give you an example. Lane Transit District, their facility in Glenwood, they had a transformer, they asked for it based on what their load requirement, they said it was gonna be, we installed it, they paid for it, great. But years later, they said, yeah, we really don't need that. Or no, actually, they didn't say it, we were monitoring that transformer and their load and going, yeah, we're gonna go replace that transformer because it's just not efficient to use the transformer they're having. What do we charge them for that? $0. That was our benefit, subs, system benefit. And then later, when they move forward with plans for potential electrification of their buses, they said, well, we're gonna need this transformer capacity. And we looked at their substation or their transformer at the time that we replaced that was smaller. And went, oh, no, they need a bigger one. So we went and replaced it with a similar capacity that they originally paid for. And how much did we charge them for that replacement? $0. So those are some things that we try to be flexible on.
Well, I hate to interrupt, but if people want to stay and talk to Jeff afterwards, please do. But we are at 1 o'clock, and so I don't want to keep anyone that needs to take off for the rest of the day. So please give us, help me give Jeff a round of applause. We really appreciate you being here today and talk about the 5-year plan, just history and answering these great questions. So, our next program is on Thursday, August 7th. The City of Springfield's planning group, and they're going to be here to talk about the housing plus design initiatives project that they're working on right now. So August 7th, we'll be here with our planning group. So thank you, and everybody have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Hey.
Really appreciate it.